Hello and welcome to Sports Update. Today we'll be looking at the latest sports news from around the region and beyond.
We'll also look at the latest happenings in college basketball and check out the big events in pro sports. I'm Wyatt Long.
And I'm Aiden Richardson. This is Sports Update on EUTV.
Thanks for joining us on Sports Update. Today we have the latest on Evangel Sports, and later special guest Austin Dill from the baseball team will be with us to talk about his season. But first, let's talk about Evangel men and women's tennis.
The Evangel men's tennis team had a dominating win this past weekend against Webster in both the doubles and singles matchups. The Valor took a single point in doubles with all three teams taking victories over their opponents. Both double teams, Jacob Groves and Sydney Dollar, and Jarrett Teal and Jordan Letterman, defeated their respective opponents in a sweeping 6-2 score. And Daryl Wong and James McWraith defeated their opponents with a 6-3 score. The Evangel men's tennis team also claimed a whopping 5 wins in singles on Saturday, with top performers being Daryl Wong, James McWraith, Jacob Groves, Sydney Dollar, and Andreas Robles. In the end, the Valor claimed the 4th victory of the season with a win of 6-1. The Evangel women's tennis team also obtained a total win against Webster this past weekend with 2 doubles matchups. Anna Bielitz and Sarah Hutchinson defeated their opponents in a dominant 6-4 win, and Abigail Cheney and Carla McCady scored an impressive 8-6 against their opponents. In the singles matchups, the Valor claimed 4 victories with top performers Anna Bielitz, Abigail Cheney, Sarah Hutchinson, and Alexa Phillips. The women's tennis team rebounded from previous season losses to claim an overall victory of 5-2.
The Evangel Valor baseball team was coming off of a 2-game sweep of Benedictine when they played the Ravens in 2 more games this past week. The early game would see some dominant pitching from the Valor early on in the contest. Austin Dill, who will be here later, was a standout for Evangel, striking out 6 batters and allowing just 4 hits in a complete game. The dominant defensive showing would win the game for the Valor with a final of 3-2. The second game saw Benedictine fire back with an offensive showcase, scoring 10 runs to the Valor's 5. This won the Ravens the second game and managed to stop the Valor from sweeping them entirely. Although it is still worth noting that after the 2 contests, Evangel still took the series 3-1.
The Evangel University football team will have some staffing changes coming up for the upcoming season. These changes were announced by head coach Czech Hepola this past Friday. David Flores has been promoted to offensive coordinator, while newcomer Cody Wells will be the co-offensive coordinator and the quarterback coach. Flores has been with Evangel since 2016, where he has been on the defensive side of things. Meanwhile, Cody Wells joins the Evangel staff after 6 seasons in the NCAA as offensive coach for Jacksonville State. With these new changes, it is undoubtedly a hope for better things to come for this season.
Evangel women's golf is now in full swing after heading over to Olathe, Kansas, and competing in the Baker Spring Invitational. This past week, the team would find some success overall when they finished 3rd on the day, with some notable performances. Those including Caitlin Swope, who managed to shoot an 86 in her first round and then improved to an 83 in her second. This put Caitlin in a tie for 6th at the end of the day. Another great performance was Ashley White, who shot an 83 in her first round and an 88 in her second. Overall, the team had 4 of their 5 competitors crack into the top 20, and with a lot of season left to come, we only have more to look forward from the team. Well, Aiden, a lot of good stuff from Evangel Sports this past week, a lot of good success, the baseball team, tennis team, golf team, and some coaching changes with football. What kind of things are you enjoying seeing from the team this week?
I think in particular for me, tennis stood out because as we know from recording this week to week, it seems as if tennis has been struggling. You know, they haven't been getting that momentum, but to see the men and the women get a dominant win is really good to see.
And a sweep too. Like we've seen them have like a win here, a loss here, but a proper dominant showing. Yeah, you're absolutely right. And some big news coming out of the Evangel football team. Now, we've seen the team struggle the past couple seasons, But Coach Flores, who has been coaching here since 2016, as you said, as a defensive coach. Now, it's worth noting that he was an offensive coach before he got to Evangel. So it's kind of the return to the roots situation, and we'll kind of see how that goes for the team. Hopefully it can improve them because, again, they've been struggling the past couple seasons.
Absolutely. You know, that's what you have to do after a rough couple seasons. You got to look at things, reevaluate things, and I think that this is good news for Evangel. You know, if you're struggling, change some things up and see what happens.
And we've talked about a struggling team. Baseball, we've seen them some highs, some lows this season. But nearly sweeping a team like Benedictine, a really good achievement for them so far.
Absolutely, it's huge. I think if we can do that to a team like Benedictine, then as far as the future for Evangel baseball, it's only going up.
Absolutely.
Well, coming up later, we'll be checking out some of the big NBA and college basketball games that were played this past weekend.
And in just a few, special guest Austin Dill will be here to talk about the Evangel baseball team season outcomes so far. Stay with us.
Did you know dragging chains can spark a wildfire?
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Adventure can be found anywhere, but the best place to start is in the forest.
I spy something beginning with S.
Snow.
No.
Snow-covered trees.
Nothing to do with snow.
Head outside to discover incredible animals and beautiful plants that come together to create an unforgettable adventure.
Wow.
So grab your loved ones
Don't even.
and explore a world of possibilities.
Come on, this way.
Visit discovertheforest.org to find the closest forest or park to you.
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that I would never be able to get over it and that my kids wouldn't have a father. I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. For the longest time, fear held me back from ultimately being who I wanted to. I had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
We'd do anything for kids. Yet 1 in 6 children in the U.S. struggle with hunger. Help end childhood hunger near you. Learn how at feedingamerica.org.
Welcome back to Sports Update. Here with us today is Austin Dill to talk about the baseball season outcomes. Austin, thank you for being here, sir.
Thanks for having me.
So how long have you been playing baseball here at Evangel?
This is my 5th year, so I'm using my COVID year.
Yeah. What kind of made you decide to come to Evangel in the first place?
Really just through some friends back home. We knew of Evangel, and we just decided to come check it out, had a tryout, and everything went well, and so here I am.
So you mentioned this is your 5th season. Mm-hmm. So how is this season kind of feeling different compared to the seasons that have come before?
I would say compared to the seasons before, it seems like the team chemistry is a little more there than maybe previous years, but I think we're just locked in a little more when it comes to conference games. I know last year and year before, it was kind of like, we came in ready to play, but we just didn't have that mindset of taking 3 or 4. It was just like, we'll take a few games here and there, but it's just a different mindset, I think.
What do you think is kind of contributing to that change in a mindset? Is it seniority? Is it?
I would say seniority a little bit, but mainly I would say it's our coaching staff. They're kind of pushing us, motivating us, and coach has really made an emphasis on, after a series, he tells us that we're just gonna, he wants us to have a good mindset going into the whole week of practice. We got swept by CMU, and he told us, like, hey, we need to come back with the same mentality we had when we got swept by Columbia, who is a team that's, receiving votes. They might be ranked now. He told us that, there was good things, good outcomes, but we just need to focus on just working hard every day at practice, and then it leads to results like a 3-1 Benedictine series and stuff like that.
So as a senior member of this team, would you say that there are things that are expected of you that might not be expected of a new guy coming in?
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, a new guy comes in, he's trying to get a feel for everybody, kind of, you know, how the program is kind of run, stuff like that. And, you know, for me, I've been here a while, so I've seen changes from old coaching staffs to new coaching staff. So it helps a lot, yeah.
So you've mentioned this season, it's still kind of a young season. Have there been any big standout moments for you so far?
For me personally?
For you personally and for the team?
For me personally, I would say, yeah, and just in terms of things I need to work on. Last year I had a good year, and this year I'm having a good year too, but it seems like, you know, I just need to cross that hump during one inning of the game, you know. But as far as the team goes, I don't know. We're playing really good baseball right now. The record, you know, I think it's like 15-13, something like that, somewhere along there. May not show it, but we're playing really good baseball right now.
What are some challenges that you've seen come up this year?
I would say, Coach mentioned it the other day, our pitching coach did, Kyle Smith. He said that fourth game is the toughest in a series, and in order to, our goal this year is to get to the conference tournament and compete well there. And in order to do that, you have to take all 4 games in most series. And it's very tough to do that when it's long days. You know, it's double headers on Friday, double headers on Saturday, and before that, it's just a whole week of practice. And so by the end of that 4th game, you're just mentally drained, physically drained, but you got to find that deep sense of wanting to win in order to get that 4th game.
So you've mentioned this a little bit, but I'd just like a bit more of a deep dive, because you've mentioned how the grind can get to you a little bit. What kind of mentality do you have to come through that, not just to survive it, but to be successful?
Right. I would say just your desire to win. I mean, you got to want to be at the top of the conference, and good teams like that, like the CMUs, the Mid-Americas, they enjoy what they do. And I would say a lot of us do. It's just, we just got to have a little more of a different mentality, I guess, in terms of just, you know, you're tired, you know, you're, you know, exhausted by the end of that 4th game, but you just got to find a way to win it.
So you mentioned CMU in Mid-America. Are there any other like kind of big teams, big challenges that you see coming up later in the season, or that you've already faced?
Right. I would say every team is competitive. You know, we're playing college baseball, so everybody is competitive. But one team, I guess, in particular that has stood out to me this year is Baker. I know they've beat a couple ranked opponents earlier in their season in non-conference games, and we've got them, I want to say, in 3 weeks. They seem like a team that can play well. They just split with CMU, who is 7th in the nation. So clearly they have something there that is making them a great team.
When you look ahead to that game, what are some things that you think you guys need to do as a team in order to beat them?
I would say, you know, I wouldn't change much as to what we're doing. We're working well at practice. You know, we're playing great ball right now. But in order to beat teams like that, you have to be clean in all facets of the game. There's times where we're hitting well, but we may not be pitching well. There's times where, you know, we're pitching well, but the defense isn't playing well. You know, it's there. It's just you got to put it all together at the same time.
Have you had any favorite moments so far this season, whether it's on the field or whether it's enjoying yourself with the team? What are some kind of happy memories that you've had so far this season?
Nothing really stands out too much. Early in the season, we swept a 4-game series against Bethany. I believe they're in the KCAC, which we're moving to in a couple of years. That series was fun overall, just because, like I keep mentioning, that 4th game is tough. And it felt like every game we were mentally there. And it helps when you're winning. It's easy to do that. But I would say that was a fun series. But besides that, no, it's just we're having fun right now. So. Do
you have any personal goals for yourself that you hope to achieve throughout the end of this season?
Yeah, I want to be first team all-conference. The Nick Merkel, who's the reigning conference pitcher of the year, I'd like to have conference pitcher of the year, but that's a tough goal to have. You got to be on your game every time. So I would say that's another goal, is conference pitcher of the year. And not really. I mean, those are about the two. Really, I just want to help the team win and get the conference tournament to where I believe we can have a good shot at winning.
Well, absolutely. Well, best of luck to you, sir. Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Coming up, we'll look at the most impactful games from the weekend. Stay tuned.
Severe weather can strike anytime, anywhere, but there's a simple way to stay safe. Hey, Jim Cantori here. I stay safe in dangerous weather by planning ahead. You can stay safe too with a few easy steps. Build an inexpensive kit with supplies for your family's needs. Write down important information like phone numbers and medications. Always talk with your family and remember any pets in your planning. Be ready, be safe. Start your plan today at ready.gov/plan.
An exhilarating NCAA tournament continues to impress as number 1 ranked team Kansas Jayhawks and the number 10 ranked team, the Miami Hurricanes, had a tightly contested game this past Sunday. The Hurricanes had a surprisingly dominant first half as they seemingly caught the Jayhawks by surprise. Kansas has been struggling since making the Elite Eight, and it seems as if this game would be the nail in the coffin for the number 1 ranked team. However, Kansas came out of the half hot and immediately took back control of the game. The Jayhawks would go on to win the contest with a final score of 76-50. This is the largest margin of victory in an Elite Eight matchup since 1992. The streak of having the number 1 seed in the Final Four will officially live on as the Jayhawks pull off a huge win. Boy, when you see that game go down, I mean, a huge win for Kansas, which it doesn't really seem that way because they're ranked number 1. But ever since they made it to the Elite Eight, their performance has just not been an elite performance. You know, you expect more from a team like that.
Right, and it's a weird game too, because you mentioned that it's a huge margin, a big like blowout win kind of a thing, but it wasn't that way the whole game. I mean, up through the first half, it was kind of a neck and neck. It was a contested game. And then just the second half, we saw Kansas's like true potential. We saw them both offense and defensively just take off and made them look like the number 1 seed that they are.
I agree. You know, you have the Final Four on the line, and that is the biggest spot in college basketball right now because that gets you one step closer to winning the NCAA tournament. So it's huge to get to the Final Four. And speaking of which, let's take a look at the Final Four teams.
So as you can see here, we have Duke playing North Carolina, the number 2 seed Duke versus number 8 North Carolina, and we have number 2 Villanova playing the number 1 Kansas seed. Now, we see a lot of 1 and 2 seeds in there, but it's nice to see a number 8 North Carolina sneak into that Final Four. We wish them the best of luck.
I agree. You know, their performance in the regular season wasn't that great. You know, obviously they didn't have the best record because they're ranked number 8, but their performance since making to the Elite Eight has just been phenomenal. They've been knocking it out of the park, and clearly because they made it to the Final Four as the number 8 team, and that's pretty unheard of.
Absolutely. NBA fans witnessed a great game go down this past week when the Chicago Bulls traveled to New York to take on the Knicks. The high-scoring contest was back and forth, with each team showing some impressive performances. DeMar DeRozan scored 37 points for the Bulls, including 15 points in the fourth quarter. However, the Knicks had their own standout stars, with R.J. Barrett and Alec Burks both having 20-plus point games, with 28 and 27 respectively. The turnover ratio would also show more favor to the Knicks, with New York having only 6 turnovers compared to Chicago's 14. This would prove to be the difference maker in the game, as the Knicks would outlast the Bulls to win, with the final score being 109-104.
The Denver Nuggets and the Charlotte Hornets had an absolute barn burner of a contest this past Monday. The Nuggets went into the game as the odds-on favorite, but what unfolded before fans was a game that could truly have gone either way. The Hornets led by 1 at halftime, and this was a pattern that continued throughout the entire contest. However, in the end, the Nuggets would steal the win with a final score of 113-109. Standout players from this game include the Hornets' Miles Bridges, who ended the game with 27 points, and the Nuggets' Will Barton, who ended the game with 38 points of his own. Another phenomenal game in what has been a great NBA season thus far.
The St. Louis Cardinals saw themselves at the wrong end of an offensive showcase this past week when they traveled to the Big Apple to take on the New York Mets. Both teams have seen very mixed level of success in the early portion of the season, but it was the Mets who would own the day. The Cardinals fell behind in the second inning when the Mets managed to score 3 runs. And even when St. Louis managed to score in the third, they were met with another New York run. Overall, the strong pitching of the Mets would keep the Cardinals at bay for the rest of the game, and the Mets continued to score all throughout the contest. The final inning would see the Cardinals get one last point on the board, but it wasn't quite enough, the final being 7-3 in favor of the Mets. While this is a difficult loss to swallow, it puts the Cardinals at 5-3 in this young season. With so many games left to come, fans are hopeful to see them turn it around. And they might see a little bit of support coming in, because it's actually breaking news that Albert Pujols has just signed a 1-year deal to come back to the Cardinals, so it'll be nice to see a friendly face again.
Absolutely. You know, you have the talent of that man, but more importantly, the amount of eyes he brings to the sport, and specifically the team, that's going to be huge for the Cardinals, and I think that'll kind of give them the boost that they need.
And you talk about eyes on the sport. How can you not have your eyes on the NBA this week after some incredible games like that? Again, another New York team doing an absolutely amazing job against a strong Chicago's Bulls team. There's a lot of good stuff in pro sports this week.
Absolutely. It's almost been the stereotype for so many years that the New York teams, the Knicks and the Mets, they just haven't lived up to potential at all. So to see them both getting some huge wins is just really good to see, and I'm sure that the New York fans out there are absolutely thrilled.
Absolutely.
Well, coming up, we'll be looking at the Player of the Week and upcoming games that you don't want to miss. Stay tuned.
My kids put skis on as they were learning to walk. I want my kids to be able to have those moments with their kids. Being a scientist, I'm worried about climate change in so many different ways for my kids. From the second you have a child, you want to do everything to protect them. I think our action on climate change is no different. It's just an extension of being a mom.
There is a road laid out for me.
First night here, but Amy seems cool.
Leading down to the river. I am blind, but I need not see.
What do you think?
I know this road is there for me. If I'm really free, take me down to the river and walk.
Good morning. Hope you all had a good weekend and are ready to be inspired. One quick thing I want to remind you guys to be studying.
Major key alert. Did you just look at your phone while you was in class? You played yourself.
Class, today we're talking about inspirational quotes.
You want to get that paper? You better turn in that paper and get an A+. That's a major key. Another one. Mogul talk. You want to reach the mountaintop? You got to go hard. To succeed, you have to believe. Stay focused. Fly higher than the eagle. Don't ever play yourself. The key is to make it, so make it.
Louise, can you give me an example of an inspirational quote from recent history?
Don't play yourself. The key is to make it.
And who said that?
I did. Now that's a major key alert.
Learn the real major keys to getting to college at getschool.com.
It's now time to announce the Sports Update Evangel Player of the Week. This week, we highlight sophomore James McGrath.
We are highlighting James McIlwraith for his incredible performance this past weekend during the game against Webster University. McIlwraith defeated his opponents in both the doubles and singles matchup. With teammate Daryl Wong, McIlwraith crushed their opponent in a sweeping 6-3 win, and in the singles matchup, McIlwraith claimed 2 wins with scores of 6-0 and 6-3. So congratulations to James. Well, in a day of domination by the men's tennis team, he still manages to stand out with some incredible performances. Congratulations to James. Awesome stuff from him.
Absolutely. You said it best, a dominating day, and the team needed that. You know, they needed to have a dominant win, and to see James step out amongst the pack and have the best performance of the day is incredible to see.
And having that ability as a player, not only to win as an individual, but to also win with a team, just kind of shows the kind of player that he is. Incredible stuff.
Exactly. Well, let's take a look at some of the upcoming games in Valor Sports. Men's golf plays Tuesday at March 29th at a to-be-announced time in the Cary Collegiate Classic at Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Softball plays on Tuesday, March 29th at 1 p.m. versus Benedictine in Atchison, Kansas, and again at 4 p.m. that same day, again at Benedictine in Atchison, Kansas. They play on Wednesday, March 30th at noon versus Mid-American Nazarene in Olathe, Kansas, and again at 2 p.m. that same day. And on Friday, April 1st, they play at 2 p.m. versus Graceland. That game will be at home, and they will have another game at 4 p.m. that same day.
Baseball plays Friday, April 1st at 1 p.m. versus Peru State in Peru, Nebraska. They also play at 3:30 at the same team. Saturday, April 2nd plays at 1 p.m. versus Peru State in Peru, Nebraska, and again at 3:30.
Men's tennis plays on Saturday, April 2nd at 1 p.m. versus Mo Valley in Marshall, Missouri.
Women's tennis plays Saturday, April 2nd at 1 p.m. versus Missouri Valley in Marshall, Missouri.
Men's indoor track and field plays on Saturday, April 2nd at noon at the Southwest Baptist Outdoor Open in Bolivar, Missouri.
Let's go, Evangel Valor. For more information on upcoming games, final scores, and more, visit evangelathletics.com.
And that is all the time we have for today on Sports Update. I'm Wyatt Long.
And I'm Abe Richardson. Be sure to join us next week as we bring you the latest in sports news. This has been Sports Update on EUTV.